Time for another morning coffee with Ryan Dungey. I've got my RDCoffees.com. I've got the Accelerate blend. I had to grind the beans myself. Ryan came up with all the roast profiles himself, and now you can have them as well. And we will talk about the transition from Monster Energy Supercross to Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. Okay, here we are. We're going to have another Thursday morning coffee. I've got my beans ground. I've got my Dunge mug. You're good too?
Yep.
Dude, I've learned a lot. So I should not buy the like store brand giant plastic canister of coffee. That's not good, right? That's not good. Learn that much. No. And I had to learn to grind my own beans because apparently whole beans are better. So I've come a long way with this process, man. I appreciate the advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to get you set up.
Yeah, it is a big, I mean, if you're at a hotel or something and you just take whatever they have in the lobby, are you at this point like, oh, this is horrible? Is that where you're at now?
Yeah, I think at this point it's, you kind of maybe dread, it is coffee for sure. It's something to go get a coffee, but sometimes I kind of bring my own stash a little bit. I mean, there's, you got AeroPress, you got, you can bring your own to kind of make your own, but definitely a little bit more kind of ruined a little bit in that way. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Right. So if you were at somebody's house and he's like, hey, I got a 2004 450 sitting in the garage, you'd probably be like, come on, man. Yeah, I'm used to a little something different.
Yeah, we need to get something better here. Yeah.
Yeah. At least set the sag or something on this thing. Yeah. Okay, what we're going to talk about today, it's transition time between Supercross and Motocross for these riders. This year they get like 3 whole weeks, which is a miracle. You didn't used to have that in your day. And I'm going to come right at you with Hangtown 2010, the worst race of your career, as far as I could tell. Do you agree? How bad was that? Was it the worst or at least one of the worst?
Yeah, as far as nothing really going wrong, just had a terrible performance. It was Hangtown 2010 for sure. Coming off of 2010, the Supercross, we won the championship, but I was so like mentally cooked. And I just remember the testing, when we were doing the testing, I couldn't figure out a good setting. I was all over the map. I didn't know what I wanted. I remember Roger sat me down. It's like, Ryan, you need to focus here. Like, you need to figure this stuff out. And it was actually it was a hard point in my life, but we did figure out that the crank was a little bit off. The way they, I forget the word that they use, but so the inertia, the crank, it was like making the engine bog down, but I really don't want to say that was an excuse because mentally I wasn't all there. Yeah.
But this is what's weird to me. Okay, you've won the Supercross title. So was that crank issue not noticeable, or was it a different motor for outdoors? Like, why wasn't that holding you back in Supercross?
Everything was fine for Supercross. It was just the way they balanced the cranks, just the way they did that specific engine. When I brought it up to Roger, they ended up looking into it and they found this, but regardless, that really didn't have it wasn't too big of a negative. So I want to blame it on something, but I can't really do that.
Okay. So I wonder this part. First of all, had you been doing any outdoor riding or testing at the end of Supercross, or were you full, I got to lock this Supercross title thing down?
Yeah, I was just mainly focused on the Supercross title. I should have been riding some outdoors 1 day a week. Usually that's kind of like about 4 weeks out from Supercross being over. You start riding Supercross at least 1 day a week. But I was just like, man, I can't focus on all this other stuff. I just want to focus on getting this title. It was a big position that we were in, and I put more pressure on than I needed to at the time. But, it was a big, big moment, something that you've been working for forever. So it just was mentally, and it's just really stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's weird is you and Villopoto were battling as always. And then Villopoto got hurt. And the last couple of rounds, I remember on the outside are like, oh, Dunge has it. It's over. But I remember it was like you couldn't get that through your head, or maybe you wouldn't let yourself. Yeah. I feel like you weren't looking at it that way.
I wasn't. I should have just kind of relaxed a little bit, like, hey, just do your thing. But at the time, I was just like, I couldn't let my guard down. I mean, after Villopoto's deal, it kind of was like, it was almost locked up, but I still felt like this pressure. And going into, what was it? Seattle.
Yeah.
That was just, I rode terrible. I think I almost got lapped by Wyndham. And then actually in Salt Lake City, I did get lapped by Wyndham in the mud race. But yeah.
So, okay.
But anyway, once that pressure was off, Then Vegas, I could ride a little bit more relaxed, but still it was, just in a hole.
Wow. So that's weird. So you clinched the title in Seattle, and then there was a race after that, and you still rode terrible, even though you had no pressure at that point.
Yeah, I was just mentally, I was just exhausted. I mean, it's the first
Yeah.
time that was my first year in the 450 class
Yeah.
and doing that amount of races.
Yep.
There were so many times through, I thought I had Epstein-Barr. I was just like, I'm so tired. I don't know what's wrong. And every Saturday night, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to perform, but we did. It just was, it's tough that first year, just handling that load of races.
Well, you're getting another thing that we're going to pull this into the modern times here. So say like Cooper Webb wins the Supercross title for the first time in his career 2 years ago, and it was not good when he got to outdoors. And the year before that, I think it was Anderson. It was not good. I remember he got like one podium in the first couple motos, and he's like, I feel like trash out there. And it's like, the guy was in good enough shape to win the Supercross title. How is he getting tired in these outdoor motos? So we've kind of coined this term, the Supercross Hangover, where it's not like a training thing, or maybe it's a little bit of a testing thing, but just mentally. So it's become a thing now. So you experienced that, and then in years after you had already won that Supercross title before, was it easier? Did you not have as much of a mental hurdle like in say 2015?
I wouldn't. It didn't. Yeah, I knew how to handle the pressure a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you just knew as a rider, like you were gonna dig deep going to the end of the Supercross, knowing that motocross is coming.
Yeah.
And that was also just going to be a mental struggle as well. You know, you were going to be. That was the thing about the two series back to back. I mean, you're racing every single weekend. You don't get a break, and you just got to mentally accept like you're going to dig deep, and you're going to have to dig. But everybody else is in the same boat.
Yeah.
But the championship contenders even more so because you're that pressure of having to win that you put on yourself. It was every time we showed up to Hangtown, I was like, dude, I'm exhausted. Until we got a weekend off, like you were really, because the weekend that we had off before outdoors, it really wasn't a weekend off because you were stressed out. You're trying to test, you're trying to get the bike where you want it. You're thinking it doesn't really shut off.
Yeah. So somehow in 2010, that bad opener at Hangtown, I think you came back and you won like the very next weekend at Texas. So like, what the heck did you get fixed between round 1 and 2?
Yeah, we had a weekend off. It was the best thing that could have happened. And I went back to Florida, got a lot of sleep, got a lot of productive riding into. I remember that weekend off, we went to the beach. I didn't really ever go to the beach. And I just remember it was what I needed at that point. And I came into Texas too. Like, man, I almost came into Texas like, and this sounds bad, but I was like, who cares? Like, I don't care if I get 5th, 4th, 10th, like, I'm just going to go out and ride. I'm going to have fun. And I took the pressure off, and that allowed me to just like, all right, ride yourself. And I started enjoying myself more, and I enjoyed the racing and the riding. And it started to become fun again. For a while, it was like, I just felt like I was just in a hole I didn't know how to get out of, until I just mentally said, when you start, it's not that you give up. You just kind of like let go and just have fun, enjoy it. And so once I started doing that, things started clicking away, and that was a fun outdoor season, actually. Really fun.
Oh, so besides that opener, like once you got it rolling, it actually was enjoyable. It wasn't like, oh man, I already won Supercross. Why am I here? Like you actually got back in the groove.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And sometimes it's just a perspective. Sometimes you have to just, as crazy as it sounds, you just kind of have to give a who cares attitude. Not that you don't care, but you just got to let go and have fun and take the pressure off yourself and get back to just, hey, I'm going to go give it my best. I'm going to do the best I can. And I mean, it doesn't make sense to just put all this pressure on yourself constantly and weighing yourself down. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to give it all you got, and that's all you can do. So it's definitely, if as a rider, you need to know how to manage the two series. You really need to do a good job managing that, through the weeks too, and not overthinking things. It's tough, but you can do that and incorporate a little bit of fun and balance.
Well, not overthinking it. Look, you do get some time to test. It wasn't that much when you were racing. It was only a week. And as you're saying, your head wasn't even really in it when you were testing. Now the guy's got 3 weeks. But then also, I know the Supercross factory track isn't exactly like Anaheim, but it's closer to Anaheim than a national track. I see these guys riding it like Pala, Glen Helen gets kind of rough. but it is not even close to what the nationals are like. So even when you do all this testing and stuff, don't you end up being way off or having to figure it out once you actually start racing anyway?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how a track develops in California during the week versus like a Paula race day national, it is quite different. But the other thing that you're so used to riding such a stiff setup on the suspension, and you know how, from October to May or October to basically early May, you ride Supercross. That's all you do. And then all of a sudden you jump to an outdoor bike, it feels way too soft. So naturally you want to stiffen the bike. Well, by the time you get to the first round, you're way too stiff. And then so you actually, it takes for a few races to kind of, okay, we need to come back a little bit. We need to find our groove. And even from a fitness standpoint, you get stronger. Actually, I think everybody gets better as the whole series goes on. You don't know it because everybody's in the same boat, but you're adjusting back to outdoors. It's just a different type of riding. It's rough. The bike's moving around a lot more on you. And so, yeah, there's just so many factors that you have to get back up to speed with, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So whether you had a week or 3 weeks or whatever, until you actually race, you're still not going to nail it. You have to get some of the actual racing motos under your belt for a variety of reasons to really feel right, no matter what you do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. I like it, though. I think it adds you guys probably hated it and you guys are probably stressed, but on the outside, we always loved it because as a perfect example, in 2010, we're like, oh man, Dungey's struggling. Oh no, wait, Dungey's good. We like to see that weirdo dynamic. I'm sure you just wish you could 1-1 the opener and have it be easy from there.
Which I never did. I always, the opener was always, I almost won it, but the opener was always just like, for me, it was like, I should have maybe came in with more of a winning mentality, but I was just like, man, it was like, it never failed. After practice, I was 3 seconds off the pace. And I'm like, where am I going to find 3 seconds on the track? Like I was like panicking, and every race it never failed. And that was much closer when the motos came because those are more sprint laps they're doing in practice. But, I just like, it was just the bike's not feeling good. My times are off. I'm like, I'm going to lose this. You just like all the doubt. It's just, yeah, it was tough, but you just got to keep the composure and put your best foot forward.
Oh yeah, I remember a couple years. I think it was that crazy year when Tomac was on a Honda 450 and he was going nuts in the early motos. But I remember you saying in all your interviews, you're like, I assure you, we will get better.
Yeah.
We are not going to lose motos by a minute. We're going to get better. So I guess by then you kind of knew how you would tend to ramp it up as the year goes on.
Yeah, and that was another challenge that came at play. Like let's say you had a brand new model that year, like you had no past settings or anything, no data. You were starting like fresh. And so you had like a total of 4 or 5 days to find a setting. And that's kind of hard to do. I mean, there's so much testing that goes into it versus then you're going up against other manufacturers who they got 3 years of data settings. I mean, like it's nice as a rider to know like, hey, that last year setting was good. We're going to massage it a little bit and get a little bit better. But like, this thing works. When you have a new year model, like we've never raced this thing outdoors. So we really need to nail the setup or try to.
Oh yeah. Because you were so good in Supercross that year, 2015, when that new KTM came out. I think everyone assumed that bike is amazing. That bike is great. But there was a little bit outdoors, maybe more so, of a transition point for you.
Yep. Yeah. There's just, I mean, the differences between Supercross and Motocross. I mean, there's, there's the engine package, the suspension settings. There's the wheelbase, longer, shorter, the compression that, if there's more engine brake, less engine brake. It's just like, there's so many things that are maybe great over here in Supercross, but does not carry over in the outdoors. So I'd say, yeah, it's a whole nother animal, that you're setting the bike up for. It's a challenge for the team, but they did a great job that year. I mean, we were able to figure it out, but it took about, we were testing 6-7 races into the year and still finding improvements.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That was reflected, like I said, what you were saying, where you were saying, we're not quite where we want to be yet. We will get better. We will get better. I want to get back to the mental side, how fried you said, for example, in 2010 you were because of the pressure. Did you at least enjoy the championship part at one point? Like, did you get to enjoy winning that Supercross title, or are you so messed up in pressure and out of sorts that you didn't even get the full enjoyment out of winning the Supercross title that first year in 2010?
Yeah. I did enjoy it,
Okay.
but like anything, right? It's just short-lived,
Hmm.
you know? Yep. Sorry, my internet's a little bit going in and out, but I did enjoy it, but like any title, it's just really short-lived. And you just gotta, it's one of those things. You're gonna do it, you're gonna accomplish it, and you're gonna have to get on to the next thing. And that's just the way it is. But for sure, to know it was done at the end of the day, when it was like it's over and you achieved it, I mean, that feeling was like, wow, we did it. And for sure I enjoyed that. We enjoyed the heck out of it. Yeah.
But did you get to enjoy it more? 5 years later, you win the Supercross title again because of what you learned in 2010, where you were able to
Oh,
exhale a little more, relax a little more, and celebrate that
absolutely.
Supercross thing. You were okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one, like 4 years, yeah, 5 years had passed and you're wondering, are we ever going to do it again? And to
Hmm.
like, okay, like we still got it. But
Hmm.
for a moment there, it was like, man, maybe that was it. And I didn't want to be a one and done. And I'm glad we won the championship in 2010, but I didn't like the way we won it.
Hmm.
So, once we were able to do it again, the way I kind of always saw it happening, for sure, that was definitely a much more enjoyed victory.
And then were you better at that transition too? I know you had a new bike in 2015, so that made it tough. But at least mentally, were you better than you were 5 years earlier?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I mean,
Yep.
I knew what to expect. Right.
Yep.
But the fact that doesn't change is the competitors, the challenge that presents
Oh yeah.
itself. There was always a challenge, but it's like, okay, I know what I'm in for now, which is always better.
Well, what makes it tough, and I've been talking about this, where you were in 2015, you had been around a while. You're dealing with these young, hungry guys, which at that time were say Tomac and Roxon, right? They were the young, hungry animals coming. You had the plate, they wanted it. Now it's Tomac and Roxon that are dealing with that from other guys that are younger than them. It's like you always have this transition of, unfortunately, you know all the tricks, but there's some other guys who are just animals. That's got to be tough to fend them off.
Oh, it is. I mean, as you get older, you start, you think a little bit more precisely, and
Mm-hmm.
you know a lot more, and then you got these young bucks coming in who's like, I'm going for it, which
Mm-hmm.
works a lot of the time. Sometimes it doesn't, but it works. But yeah, it's just like in 14, it was like a punch to the gut. Ken, I was supposed to be the main guy at KTM. Here comes Ken.
Yeah.
He beats me in the outdoors. And it was like, man, that was tough to accept. And KTM's looking at me like, you're our rider. And it's like, what are we doing here? So
Mm-hmm.
after 14, but yeah, these young guys coming in, they challenge you. You see it happen all the time. And even nowadays later,
Yep.
it's like, you got Chase coming in, he's challenging these guys, and it just it's a repeat. It's a repeating process. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny to see like Eli and Ken in the same situation you were, and they were the young guys then. And it's not long. We're only talking 4 or 5 years, but that's
Yeah.
how much that window changes. So what I'm getting at with all this is, so Cooper Webb had to deal with it the first time he won the Supercross title. Do you think now that he's already done this before, will he probably be better with this whole process this time? Does it help to do it before?
I think so. For sure. You can just see he handled things better towards the end there. I mean, in 19, you see him kind of like he was getting sick. He's probably getting run down. I mean, but
Yeah.
now he finished strong, which really kind of shows that he's handling things. His mindset is in the right place. He's handling things better. I think he's probably he needs to improve in the outdoors a little bit. Like he seems to be back behind just a tad,
Yeah.
but I think this year he has that dialed in and figured out. And granted, they can get the bike dialed in as well for outdoors. I think mentally he's in a good place right now for sure. Like he's ready to tackle the outdoor season. Yes, that from the outside looking in, that's kind of what I'm reading.
Just kind of knowing him, right? He seems like if people are starting to say you're not as good outdoors as Supercross,
Yeah,
that's
he'll
probably to
probably
fire
vouch
him up.
for this. Yeah, he'll probably
Yeah.
have a chip on his shoulder, like he says he rides with. But no,
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I think he, outdoor, yeah,
No, I don't mean you saying it like that's not you. That I mean, he has one outdoor win in a 450. That's just like the narrative that's out there,
yeah,
and maybe he'll use that.
yeah.
Um, okay, well, one more thing for you. When you see these races, there's guys you did race, such as Cooper and as Kenny and Eli, and then there's guys that you didn't race because they're young guys. Do you take a little pride in the guys you battled? Like, do you root for them more because you're like, oh, those are my guys, or do you never even really think about how you applied with them?
I when I see the situation, I was like, I know what it feels like, you know, whether I root for one or the other. I mean, I know what it's like to be the, you know, the older guy who's got the younger guy coming up, and it's like, you know, it's tough. It's, you know, it's like somebody's on your heels all the time. And so, you know, there's definitely a lot of respect for both, you know, the young guy and the old guy. But it's funny when you're like a Chase, right? At that stage in my life, I felt like I'd come to a race and wow, I feel better. You just always were getting better. You're going faster. Naturally, things were just happening. It's good. And then all of a sudden you hit a point where you're like, wow, I kind of feel like I'm going the opposite way, you know? And, but yeah, I think, it's just a tough position to be in, and it's just the way it is. And, kind of part of the sport.
Oh yeah. You were there. It was Reed and Stu. And it was like, oh, these Ryan guys, they're good, but they're not Reed, Stu level. And the next thing we know, we're like, oh wait, they just are. And then you guys battled hard, and there was no line between like they're here and you're here. Like you guys just battled. You and Chad had so many battles. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I honestly feel like I didn't really get to race. I don't want to say I didn't get to race the best of those guys, but like a Reed and Stu, gosh, in their primes, like when they were mentally feeling, I mean, everything was, I mean, I probably didn't get to race them in that era even. So they were kind of maybe where I was when, you know, Eli was starting to come into the 450 class, making it hard on me. So yeah, it's just part of the sport. It's fun, but it's exciting too. Like watching Chase fly through the whoops, right? You're like, whoa, look at this young kid. So it's exciting for our sport, and new guys coming in, there's new guys in the mix, but if you're the rider, you're like, gosh dang it, can't you just stay in the 250 class for another year? let me use for another win or something, but it's not like that. So
no, that's what I like though. I like that's what I think there's such over analysis of what Ken or Eli are going through because they're not maybe winning the titles that they used to. And I'm like, dude, it's just simple math. Like we've seen this happen over and over. It's awesome to see them still trying. And I mean, who knows? Either one of them could win the title this summer. Either one of them could have won Supercross. They're not out of it at all. I just love that young, crazy guys against the experienced guys. And this is not new. You've been on both sides. It's pretty funny to see. I just love that part.
Yeah. And I guess to just add to it, it's like what you're seeing is it's a short career, right? And those guys are getting to the end of their career. I mean, I hate to say that, but they're kind of getting to the older part.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens. And that's what I never really anticipated. Like, what's going to make you retire? Well, it's probably because you're going to be done. You're going to be, you know, you pushed it all you could and you have nothing left. And that's where they're mentally getting to that point where they're having to dig really deep to find that motivation and so forth. And so they're just getting to that end of their career. And you got these new guys coming up who are getting better every time they go out. So it's just, if that makes sense.
Is there even a subconscious, like, look, late in the Supercross main, the track is hammered. And do you get to the point, or maybe even they do, where they're like, dude, these whoops. And then some younger guy's like, I don't care. I'm pinning it.
Well, here's the thing. Like I always looked at it like, yep, this young guy's faster than me. Right. But the one thing that I could always carry to the race was I had the experience. And usually if you can apply that, over the course of the whole season, you're going to be better for sure. So you have the upper hand still. They just have that raw speed that you can't always beat sometimes.
It probably freaked you out a time or two though, when you'd see how fast they would get.
Yeah. It made you wonder like, gosh, is this guy going to be in it to the end? We'll see, but it's just the challenges that it presents itself. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, these have been super fun to do. Maybe we'll do more. I know you'll be watching outdoors. Heck, maybe we'll hang out. We sometimes bring you in the booth at Millville. Maybe we'll get you.
Yeah. We just sitting here all summer waiting for the phone call. Come on.
Okay. We'll get you some races. We'll hang out, me, you, and GL, who you're somewhat related to. I don't think people even realize this. You've become related to Grant Langston.
Yeah. I would have never thought, but yeah, my older brother Jade's married to Whitney, Grant's sister. So that made Grant my brother-in-law, right?
So yeah, that's right. Yeah. I can't imagine you and Grant hanging out in the same house. It's like, here's Dunge, here's GL. You are not the same person at all.
It always makes for a good laugh. It's fun.
That's right. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, thanks for the time, and we'll see you at the races in person. That'd be cool.
Yep. We'll keep on. I appreciate it, Weege. Thanks, man.
All right. See ya.
Cheers.
Yep. Oh, hey, I just forgot. Are you going to Brayton's thing this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So talk about that real quick.
I head down. I'll be there all day Saturday.
Yeah.
So you were gonna go, but you're not anymore, right?
Yeah, I was gonna go, and then I gotta be family guy one last weekend before the road trip starts, so I'm out. It would have been good. So at least they got Dunge. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, it's good. You've been on the gas, dude. Every time I hear you're flying over here and there, and so
Yeah, it's a little crazy. All right, so you're gonna have fun at that.
Yep.
I wish I was there.
Let you know how it goes.
Okay. All
Thanks,
right. See ya. Yep.
Have a good
All right,
day,
man.
bud.
Have a good day.